Hello everybody and welcome to another Doctor Who review. This time I'm reviewing a third Doctor story. It's the Monster of Peladon. As always, I have with me, for the Classic Series reviews, the television companion. Let's see what the plot synopsis says for this story. The TARDIS returns to Peladon some 50 years after the Doctor's last visit. The planet is now ruled by Queen Valeera, daughter of the late King Peladon, with advice from Chancellor Ortron. The Doctor and Sarah are arrested by Ortron for trespassing on sacred ground, but the names are cleared by Alpha Centauri, now Galactic Federation ambassador to Peladon. A ghost-like image of Agador has been responsible for some of the deaths on the planet's trisilicate mines, heightening unrest amongst the miners. The Doctor discovers that the apparitions are really the result of the use of a matter projector and directional heat ray by human engineer Eckersley. Eckersley is in league with a group of renegade Martian warriors led by Commander Exixia, in a plot to seize trisilicate deposits for Galaxy 5, a power block at war with the Federation. Exixia mounts an attack on the throne room and kills Ortron. The Doctor, however, turns the heat ray on some of the Martians, while others are dispatched by the miners. Eckersley flees, taking the Queen hostage, but the Doctor uses the real Agador to track him down. Eckersley is killed, but Agador also dies in the skirmish. Its plans thwarted, Galaxy 5 surrenders to the Federation. The Doctor is invited by Valeera to take over as Chancellor, but he declines, suggested the miners' leader, Gebek, would make a better candidate. Okay, so the penultimate story of Jon Pertwee's era, The Monster of Peladon, starring Jon Pertwee as the Doctor and Sarah Jane Smith, played by Elizabeth Sladen. This is a sequel to The Curse of Peladon from 2 series previously, and it moves the action on about 50 years. It's kind of like another parody of Britain's position in the European Union at that time, or the EEC as it had been made. Curse of Peladon was the parable of Britain joining the EEC. This is the parable of being in the EEC and feeling slightly out of place and being a bit roughshod, rod over by other people. It's an interesting story to watch. I think, though, it's a 4-parter that's been stretched into 6, and even then it doesn't succeed. I think it runs short because some of the later stories, some of the later episodes have a recap that gets longer and longer as the episodes go on. Episode 6 has got a recap of about 2.5 minutes, and it's only a 23-minute episode, so I think they were struggling to get the runtime in overall with this, which is... it's one of these things with 6-parters, and there's a lot of 6-parters in Pertwee's era. They tend to just do one 6-parter going forward in Tom Baker's era until Shada. Because 6-parters in Doctor Who at this time really need 2 plot lines to work together, 2 separate locations. It's all in the one place, and the second plot line that comes in the B plot with the Ice Warriors coming in, the Rogue Ice Warriors coming in, isn't the strongest. It gets a bit more interesting when they become involved, but it isn't the strongest way of keeping the plot going, I don't think. It doesn't tie things together. And that's the thing with this one. The first few episodes are kind of pedantic, plodding back and forth, running through corridors, getting caught, being released, getting caught again, being released, and all that. And the only build-up you get is the tension between the miners, which is Etis, who's kind of like the hothead of the miners, and Gebek, who's the more realistic and political and what do we call it, progressive of the miners. He is for his people, but he knows that he could work with the higher ups, and there's kind of that kind of them and us mentality with Peladon still there from before. The dynamic you have with the Queen and her as her counsellor, Ortron, is interesting. How he is kind of... She's made it very clear that women aren't seen as high positions of power in Peladon, and Ortron has put his lent very heavily on the Queen over the years. And it takes somebody like Sarah Jane Smith to make the Queen realise that she can rule her own and do her own stuff and come to the realisation. And the bit near the end, it goes full circle from this very timid girl who is taking advice from Ortron all the way to somebody who's very disgusted with what happens with Eckersley when he takes a prisoner near the end about what's happened, and her strength comes through in the story. It's an interesting little plot development, and it's probably one of the only plot developments that work in this story. So Brian Hale's creation of the Ice Warriors is probably the strongest element, but they are back to their own manipulative ways. The Curse of Peladon establishes the more diplomatic. This is a rogue. They establish it as a rogue part of the Ice Warriors. It's not a rogue faction. It's not the Ice Warriors that we're supposed to know now. It's an interesting concept. It is their last appearance until Cold War in Series 7 of Doctor Who's Revive series. If it's supposed to be a teething trouble story for Britain's entry into the European Economic Community, it doesn't come across as well as it could do. Maybe 50 years out, I'm not understanding the nuances as much. If it was done now, or a few years ago, it would have been a parable Brexit, and it probably would have worked for Brexit. With a couple of tweaks to the story, but overall it's not the strongest parable, and it's okay. It's directed fine by Lenny Main, it's written okay by Brian Hills, but it's not the strongest. It's the weakest of the stories, and one of the weakest. I wouldn't say it is the weakest. The weakest is actually another story in Series 11, but it's not one of the best. Characters wise, let's have a look. So Jon Pertwee is solid as always, the Doctor, and you can always tell he's really comfortable in the role here. There is a sense he's maybe getting a little bit tired and weary about the role, but he gets a nice bit of action with the swordplay with Etis near the end of episode 4, beginning of episode 5, and there's nothing really wrong with the relationship with Sarah. It seems to be developing a little bit, and Sarah's becoming a bit more sassy and cheeky, like a cheeky niece to him, and that's kind of so throughout it, but it's really quite cute how they work that. Sarah isn't like Jo Grant, who kind of agrees with the Doctor all the time. She does fight back when she feels there's an injustice there, and the Doctor recognises that and utilises Sarah, especially with her feminist tendencies, to help the Queen to grow out of her shell a little bit. But it's obvious that she does care for the Doctor, and Elizabeth Sladen plays it the best out of the two leads. I think she's the stronger one of the two. There's a lot of nuances in Sarah's character here. You get the strength of the kind of forced feminism that's in there, but her initial characterization of the journalistic side and her strengths of the journalistic side of the way she investigates things and gets on with things is very much to the fore here. I do think it's the better performances of the two. She is a little bit of a spare part at times within the story. There's times where she's kind of been used as hostage a little bit, or she's wandering around kind of slightly aimlessly in the tunnels and the mines and things like that, but overall it's not too bad actually. Then we've got the guest cast. You've got Donald G as Eckersley, who's a civil servant, kind of dog's body, very much wanting to get on with the job, and the twist at the end is a little surprising, but it's well played by Donald G, because you don't really sense that there's something not quite right about Eckersley until about 4th episode in, and he's trying to keep on the sidelines, so it gives a better point of view. But the whole thing about Galaxy 5 fight and everything else, and the way he's shoehorned in there, is a little bit contrite at times, and it doesn't quite work for me. Then you got Valeera, played by Nina Thomas. I love the fact they try and play the fact that she's a young queen that needs to have support from other people and seems to be under the foot of Ultron for most of the story, but Sarah does show that she can be her own ruler, and she does seem to rely on a bit of authority, because she was a queen from a young age. She was a very young daughter of King Peladon. Then you've got Ultron, played by Frank Gatliff. He's very much a bureaucrat. He's got very much an upper-class thought to him. He does want to protect the Queen, but he's also got his own ulterior motives and doesn't like the interference of the miners and the Federation, and wants the Federation gone. And this is where you could have had, in a Brexit situation, Ultron being the reference point for people who wanted to get out of the European community. It's interesting how the Federation, how the Peladonians all come together when the Federation's threatening their livelihood and the way they work. And this is where I feel the European community thing comes in a bit more with this, because obviously Britain's always tried to be on its own in the EU to an extent, and obviously ultimately did that in 2016. I like the way he plays it. He's kind of this kind of brooding, I know what I'm doing, and the kind of eyebrow raising he does at times really does work, and I do enjoy the character for that. It's a shame he goes what he does. Then you've got Rex Robertson, who's the standout of the story for the guest cast, playing Gebek. Now, Rex Robertson was last in Dr. Tyler in The Three Doctors, which you've done a review for up there. He just seems to know how the part is played. He's kind of northern voice to him. He's like the middleman for everything. He wants to protect his miners, but he also understands he needs to work with the higher-ups and the nobility to get what they need done, and he's a good negotiator there. And he does seem to be the best of the guest cards. He's quite engaging as well. I do quite enjoy the way the character works here. And he's more of a diplomat than he thinks, and that's why he's suggested as the new counsellor for the Queen at the end of the story. Then you've got Ralph Watson, who plays Etis, the hothead second in command of the miners. He tries to take matters into his own hand. He's got this. He takes over the Sonic Lance, which is the technology they're all scared of in the plot, and ends up dying because it's been booby-trapped there. But it's a good little roleplay by Ralph Watson. It does work quite well. But he is the counterpoint to Gebek in this story. You then get Alpha Centauri. The character themselves is a good idea, but oh my god, how whiny they can be. It's set up like that, and how fickle Alpha is. Alpha doesn't like conflict. That comes through from Curse of Peladon still. And Alpha's always trying to think about the Federation and be good for the Federation and everything else, which is interesting. It's a dual roles. You've got Stuart Fell playing the body, and then you've got Yazan Churchman doing the voice. And Yazan Churchman returns in the Ice Warrior story in Season 9, and I can't remember the name of it, or Season 10, and I can't remember the name of it now. The one with the Queen Ice Warrior, and I can't remember the name of it. It'll be down there. But yeah, it's okay. You've got to remember it's a male. It's a hermaphrodite, so it's male. Well, he comes across. He references himself as he, but it's got a female voice. It was an interesting, very liberal thing to do in those days. It's actually quite interesting. Works now as well. Then you've got Azixia, played by Alan Bennion, who's back again as the Ice Lord. He is in the mould of the old-fashioned Ice Warriors that we knew in the Patrick Troughton era, and a lot of hiss and very well played by Mr. Bennion. And he was in Seas of Death as well, I believe. And it's good as he can come back and play the Ice Warrior once more. And it's back to the old-fashioned Ice Warriors and the way they work, and the big baddie. It's not the political structure is interesting there overall with that. And yeah, it's an okay role. And then you've got Sonny Coldix, who's recently passed away, but he plays Skell. He is basically the heavy of the Ice Warriors. And yeah, it's a strong enough performance, and you can see why Sonny Colditz is involved in all the Ice Warrior stories, because he seems to be the embodiment. He's got the height, he's got the shape. By this time he knows how the Ice Warriors walk and talk and work, and it's a very nice little role. So music wise, we have Dudley Simpson. It's very much in the mould of the Third Doctor sound. You've got the kind of synths in there, but you've also got the timpani drums that are slightly processed in their sound when the Ice Warriors are walking about, which is very akin to what the Seas of Death music was like. And that's good to see. It's nice to see that kind of reference comes through. That kind of leitmotif is really quite fun, and I like it a lot. Lenny May's direction's solid, as it has been in the Three Doctors, as it was in the Curse of Peladon. You get the feeling this is the tight budget one of the stories, because they utilise the same corridor shots quite a bit. There's only 2 or 3 main sets in here. You get the feeling that they're kind of tight on the budget. This wanted to show a little bit, but it's okay. It's fine. It makes the difference for me, and it is fun enough in regards to the way it's directed. The first couple of episodes are a bit slow, but it does get engaging a bit more as time goes on. But overall, it's no right story. I don't mind it. It's not the strongest Jon Pertwee story. It's not the weakest. There is one that's worse in Series 11. A lot worse, and I don't like it at all. But when we come to that, you'll find out. But it's okay. It does the job for what we need, and it's enjoyable enough. But it's not take your brain out just as much as it would have been with the episode of The Name of the Doctor, the previous review. But it is in the same rating for me, and it is 3 TARDISes out of 5, but a high 3 TARDISes out of 5. Let's see how that fits in with the rest of the Jon Pertwee stories, and how it fits in with the rest of the stories so far. So, The Monster Paladin is the lowest rated story of the Jon Pertwee era of what I've reviewed so far. We have at the top Inferno with 4.5 TARDISes out of 5, and of course you've then got The Green Death and Spearhead of Space with 4 TARDISes out of 5. The other Lenny Main director story I've done so far, The Three Doctors, is at 3.5 TARDISes out of 5. Overall, still at the bottom are 2 stories, Time Lash and Sleep No More with 2.5 TARDISes out of 5, and at the top are still 6 stories, The Hammer's Patrol, Inferno, The Day of the Doctor, The Caves of Androzani, The Tomb of the Cybermen, and Dalek with 4.5 TARDISes out of 5. That's it, guys. Thanks very much for watching as always. Tell me what you think about the Monster Paladin. Do you like it? Leave a comment down below. Do you not like it? Leave a comment down below. Do you have any sort of view on it? Leave a comment down below. If you like this video, don't forget to like it and share it with the hashtag teamstructor, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notifications bell so you know when a new video comes out. Check out the playlist out there for all the other Doctor Who reviews in the series so far, and if you want to help me out and support the channel, you can go to the Patreon at patreon.com/Deanstructor. For as little as £1 or $1 a month, you can help support the channel, so just go to patreon.com/Deanstructor. I am back on Wednesday with another Doctor Who review. It's a Big Finish audio review, and it is for the Marian Conspiracy. I hope to see you then at 6 PM GMT, but general, there's a new video every Sunday at 4 PM GMT. But until next time guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you later.